Ah, okay.
Yep.
Great, great. All right. Thank you all. Glad to be here again. So, Robert Love, I'm a product manager for Maestro at UiPath, which is our agentic business process orchestration platform. So, my role and what I do, especially here today, is to not just give the theoretical, but also to provide some practical information or insights to our different customer base about how we see humans, automations, AI agents all coming together to do the things that they respectively do best underneath what we consider to be well-governed processes. I'll hope to walk you through a few of those things today and how we mix those different actors together along with process intelligence.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
good, Robert. And like I said, I'm very much looking forward to this because, my background and one of my passions is process foundations. And that's really what we're here to talk about today. Not just about the UiPath platform, but the overall capability, the business capability need with the introduction of agentic as another actor in a process. So by way of introduction from my side for the broader audience, my name is Marshall Sied. I'm a co-founder, co-CEO of Ashling Partners. We're a long time UiPath service provider partner. We really focus on automation and agentic AI from a advisory and implementation and support perspective. And as I mentioned, a lot of folks at Ashling have a BPMN background. So what we thought we would do, just by way of story arc, is just really talk about fundamental building blocks. And you're going to see Robert and I kind of go back and forth, prognosticate maybe a little bit during this conversation, this hour-long conversation. But we're also going to kind of double click so we can actually get to some demonstrations on the impact of marrying business process orchestration with actors like agents and robots and humans. That is really where the change, disruption, the value for large enterprises currently is. So we are going to start at its most fundamental level, and we are going to start by defining what a process is. And I think this is obviously simple for most folks that have been in, process automation, any type of enterprise transformation program. But I think increasingly it's important to make sure that we have strong process foundations. And from a process perspective, all this is a series of activities that and inputs that lead to outputs and outcomes. Whether that's order to cash or sub processes like collections within order to cash, it's really important to understand and have standard protocol on the definitions and components that make up a process, which is where we do our first double click. So BPMN is a standard that a lot of BPM, so business process management solutions throughout the years were built on. We are currently on the 2.0 set of standards for BPMN. And Robert's going to showcase from a UiPath perspective how they leverage those standards to ensure universal language for both humans, but also increasingly machines and agents. So I'm going to take you through kind of an example of a BPMN diagram. This is the de facto business process foundation in the market today. And it's really important to understand in this era of non-deterministic technology where we have deterministic standards and solutions. So I think a lot of folks that have operated in process automation, process improvement initiatives in the past, we're probably leveraging components of BPMN without realizing it, Robert. I'm not sure if you would agree with that, but
Yeah,
uh,
100%.
if you use Visio, you're using components of BPMN, maybe not in the most formalized way, but at the end of the day, a BPMN diagram is a visual representation of a process. And why that is important is number one, standardization and change adoption. So making sure that your shared service organization is speaking the same language as your sales and marketing organization, which is speaking the same language as your supply chain organization. And if you look at the highest level, just by way of definition, you have pools and lanes. So we used a very fun. We have a lot of yogis at Ashling Partner. So we used a very simple diagram using a process modeler canvas to explain you at yoga. So you at yoga is both the pool and the lane because I wanted to keep this simple for the sake of this conversation today, Robert. But you start with
Yeah.
every process starts and ends with an event, period. That's your input and output. Or else there's no point in doing a process. There's no point in running an agent or an automation if you don't have a beginning and end that moves the needle for your business operations. So in this scenario, you have activities from that event. If you're going to do yoga, you need to get your mat, you need to see what your classmates are doing. And then you have a gateway. There's a lot of different levels of gateways. We're keeping this in its most simple form for sake of example here today. But a gateway is really a decision, an if-then logic that we can take in order to decide the different paths and gateways that exist in a process decision-making framework. Much like an agent has to make decisions when you give it a goal and you say, have at it, figure out the best path and gateway yourself to get there. So you can start to see why this is a good foundation for all actors in a process, not just humans, not just robots or low-code applications or enterprise apps, but also increasingly agents. You have connectors that connect these decisions. There's varying levels of connectors too. I'm not going to get into the dotted line components here, but and then you have artifacts that you attach. What are key exit criteria artifacts that you need for this activity to be following protocol from a governance perspective, from an auditability perspective. So that is our yoga example, ending with Namaste, of course. Which leads us, so we talked process, Robert. We've talked BPMN as a standard,
Yeah,
and the components that make up a BPMN diagram, if you will, and
yeah.
how that creates standard artifacts that are readable by machines and humans. Can you give us a little definition here from a business process orchestration perspective?
Yeah. So what's important to know is, I guess, business process orchestration with UiPath Maestro, at least we're built on top of that BPMN 2.0 standard. And so we use it to connect all of what I'd say the moving parts are of a process. So that's the inputs that you have, the actions you might take using APIs, RPA, et cetera, and decisions you might wind up making and branching throughout, right? But using all of that to give you something that's more of a coordinated flow that works across many different technology systems through UI automation, API automation, RPA automation, using all of the different components of the UiPath platform. So you might have a bot that updates a record. You might have an AI agent that evaluates risk, and you might ultimately have a person that's doing an approval. But the beautiful part of business process orchestration is that they're all following one governed design, right? So you get something that's really consistent. The model kind of defines how all of the work gets done. It enforces some different timing and ultimate responsibilities for each record. And then importantly, if something changes in a business process orchestration, it makes it a lot easier for you. Let's just say, for instance, a risk threshold for an agent. You can update once, and then all of the downstream components automatically inherit that change that you have. So it's a way of getting to something that's more reliable and more governed as you start to bring increasingly all of these different components together. Does that make sense, Marshall?
It makes sense, and it is actually a perfect segue to some third-party validation here, Robert. So you had mentioned all the different actors kind of coming together. I really like the point on the fact that business processes do change, right? We are living in a more
Yeah.
dynamic world by the day. So doing a process clean sheet of order to cash once every 5 years probably is not sufficient anymore at this
Yeah.
point. So the dynamic nature needs to have dynamic process and tools behind it.
Hmm.
But also the combination here. So, we're going to reference Gartner a couple times here today because they came out with what is called their BOAT Magic Quadrant and Critical Capability Map. It is actually the category. It's basically the convergence category from my perspective of everything enterprises have been trying to do with agentic AI, automation, orchestration, integration, and integrated services, all the way down full stack to the infrastructure level and the model level. And this is a quote from there. Things are getting more complicated, and the rigid process management, the way of yesteryear with BPN has actually led to fragmentation. We've seen certain old BPN and solutions not make it because of that fragmentation. The more modern, forward-looking platforms are the ones that are really good at deploying this hybrid workforce of humans, bots, and agents together. Certainly think UiPath is best in class when it comes to that modern approach. But it is very aligned to what you just said. And in fact, here's the visual we like to look at, Robert. So once again, this is referencing embracing the future of automation with BOAT from Gartner. And we've got this little cute boat visual, but if you look at it, the foundational elements are already pretty embedded in the enterprise from a process foundation perspective. And certainly UiPath has been a leader of charging some of those foundational elements. So you've got RPA, you've got the API integration, whether that's iPaaS or through other integration service capabilities, the ingestion of unstructured data. And a lot of that unstructured data sometimes is documentation. So intelligent document processing, workflow management, whether it's done on an automation horizontal platform or a vertical enterprise application. So all of that's already embedded. We have low code development tools and applications, the ability to design and model processes, whether that's through simulation and process intelligence or on a canvas, a BPMN canvas like something in Maestro. And then you have event driven triggers at this point, or streaming triggers through Kafka or something else, right? All of that, all of those foundational elements are brought together by the core fabric. And that is what this whole conversation is about. Business process orchestrator as the core fabric to the foundational elements and what we would call infrastructure and advanced below the line, if you will. So that's where your multimodal AI, the modalities of voice, vision, and digital come together. All of your orchestration across multiple agents, kind of chaining them together, working with the lane chains of the world. All of that comes together here with a governance structure in mind for process observability at the bottom. So I think this is actually probably the best visual, best third-party validation on the importance of business process orchestration. Do you have any thoughts on
Absolutely.
that, Robert?
No, I concur. This gives you a good sense of how comprehensive, when we talk about business process orchestration, it really is bringing together the entirety of all of these new concepts that you have with some of the best practices with things you might consider more traditional process orchestration.
Yeah, it's like it was really timely of them coming out with some of this research, frankly.
Yeah.
I think a piece, Robert, that we talked about that I know is passionate, that we're passionate both about is the fact that you need process orchestration and you need process intelligence, but they are not the same. They are very,
Correct.
very interconnected, and you can even get it from the
Yeah,
same.
they're tied together.
But
Yeah.
I think it's important to understand the difference between orchestration and process intelligence. So we really want to talk a little bit about leveraging them in concert with each other, so that everybody knows. I think there is confusion in the market. We've heard it from our enterprise client base. When do I use capabilities like process mining, so process intelligence versus process orchestration? They are forever going to be married together, just to be clear, if you do it the right way. But I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's start a little bit just with process orchestration. And it's important to understand that it's really not just a design tool or a modeling capability. It really encompasses the full end-to-end life cycle of what orchestration really means, keeping automations running, flowing, and improving over time. So you start off by modeling a process, of course, with the nice drag and drop of the various elements that Marshall showed you before, the boxes, the things that look like little delta signs or diamond signs, I should
Yeah.
say, for decisions and gateways. But then you implement. And in UiPath Maestro environment, what that means is, again, bringing in not just traditional robotic process automation, but also various API capabilities, agents, whether they be agents that are built on the UiPath platform or whether they're built outside of the UiPath platform with coded agents like LangChain, for example, or agents that are part of systems, embedded in other systems, something like a Salesforce agent for us, right? But bringing all of those different things together along with various human steps into one comprehensive design. But you really start to get a lot of power at scale with being able to operate on those live cases, being able to pause instances if you need to, or more importantly, being able to retry at will or roll back a process to a previous step. Just imagine the circumstance where an IT system was down. That's not really the fault of any automation, but you need to retry that specific step, or maybe there's an alternative path that you can skip over to kind of avoid that particular system or that manner in which you were interacting with that system. Those are the types of things you could start to do with kind of the live operations that we provide with Maestro and process orchestration. But then you also get the ability to monitor and look at things at scale, so you understand, where my faulted instances, if there are any. Uh, let's drill into specific metrics. And then ultimately, what I really want to get to is I want to be able to optimize this. And so I think that's what leads us more into the process intelligence space. So if you think about orchestration as ultimately keeping your processes running, process intelligence is what keeps it learning. And it does that by first through discovery. So you really understand what's happening with process mining, things like task mining, using logs, user activity to reveal what the actual flow is for a business today, kind of mirroring that existing life cycle, and then taking it a step further, right? So after I've modeled and implemented and I'm running and executing this process orchestration, being able to enrich it. So to look down at the log level and say for this particular process, which touches my ERP and my CRM, if I can get those logs from that ERP and that CRM, I could start to understand that process even deeper, right? And that's what gives us, something more of a continuous telemetry, continuous feedback loop. I get all the variants, I see all the delays, and I understand the causes of any delays, rework, bottlenecks. And this is what we call closing the loop, as you can see. So it really informs what we think is kind of the next era where you're coupling process orchestration with process intelligence.
No, I think that's a fantastic explanation. And I know we're going to demo this in a little bit, but I think just maybe kind of reinforcing a couple key points that you just made, Robert. I like the idea of, calling process intelligence as the next level of detail for enrichment of your process. I
Hmm.
always, and Ashling always positions process intelligence not as a one-time X-ray of, logs from a CRM or ERP system, but a continuous improvement technology that does close that loop and does allow you to really kind of focus on whether it's a lean team or continuous process improvement team. It allows them to have that dynamic approach. And I think one of the pieces that is pretty exciting is the ability to simulate. So I mean, I just left a client
Yeah,
meeting in regards to simulating the fit gap of going from SAP ECC to S4. And they wanted
yeah,
to simulate what that would look like, both from a training of their people perspective. So there's a change management component, but also, hey, if we're going to do this, should we invoke a couple agents on top of certain areas that are non-deterministic in that future
yeah,
state, right? So you can do all of that at the next level with process intelligence, and then once you feel good about hardening and industrializing that, you can move it to process orchestration or vice versa. So
yeah,
like they're somewhat interchangeable, but definitely have different purposes.
yeah, 100%.
So I think we're gonna keep going in regards to the next level of details here,
Yeah,
Robert. So I know this is a piece that we frankly probably could spend the most of the time on, believe it or not. So
yeah,
when we look at setting the stage for agentic, part of what to me because a lot of folks at our firm really did grow up in that BPM era. And we're pretty excited that the notation, the standardization of BPMN 2.0 is kind of cool again, because I think it's going to be so critical. The reason why I think this is such a foundational approach for providing some deterministic orchestration to a non-deterministic agent-driven world are really kind of centered on these 3 points. So
yes,
number one, the standardization of these semantics. This is a common, I think I stressed this at the preamble here, but it does provide a common readable schema. And it doesn't make a difference if it's a
yeah,
machine or a human
yeah,
or human in the loop with an agent in a machine. you really have something that is commonplace that allows us to kind of tweak the non-deterministic dial of confidence thresholds
Yeah.
by giving an agent that is really goal-oriented, not deterministic, rules-driven, the ability to have something common to common input so that they have more consistent outputs in that
Yes.
non-deterministic model. So that intent, that flow, that dependency, it definitely enables this AI era, the agentic era, along
Hmm.
with bots, along with human in the loop APIs, and it does it with a lot of safeguards in place. So I think that's
Yes.
huge in the enterprise setting. Number two, the composable architecture piece. So this allows multiple agents to get coordinated across tasks and systems with a higher degree of confidence and a lower degree of risk. Yes,
Yeah.
you can do a lot of things in chaining agents together right now. Doesn't mean you should do that in the enterprise setting yet. I think a lot of the things you see are more in the what I would call the consumer. The consumer segment,
Yes.
they haven't bleeded over into the enterprise quite yet, Robert, but it does give you that blueprint of work that I think is going to be a much more acceptable, at least in the next 3 to 5 years in the enterprise setting.
I agree.
And the last piece, and then I definitely want you to kind of respond on some thoughts here, Robert, is just you already mentioned it a little bit, using examples with agents, agent force, agents from Salesforce, or having called to custom agents on LangChain. The cross-vendor interoperability is going to be really important, and one of the things that drew us to UiPath as a partner early on was open architecture ecosystems. And
Yeah.
the fact that open source will probably win ultimately in this space. So the ability to leverage, all of UiPath or use process orchestration from UiPath and Maestro to call Microsoft Copilot. I know you guys have support for AI Foundry now with Microsoft, which every enterprise has. We already talked about LangChain and some other ones. So that portability and that interoperability, I think it's a major differentiation point, and one that is I see in all of our enterprise clients right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely second or back that up. But I'll start. I like this one, two, and three here, and I'll just there are a few thoughts that come to mind when I see this, right? The standard semantics, from what I've seen, it's not just at the technical layer, but it's allowed us to bring the different personas that we've interacted with in the whole realm of business process automation and orchestration all together, right? We've got our traditional process owners could now interact a little bit more with the traditional automation teams, who can now interact more with the people that are showing some burgeoning interest in developing AI agents, right? Having those standardized semantics have really helped us in that regards. And so that was an important aspect to us. But those standardized semantics lead in many ways to enabling two and three. So enabling us to swap out over time, let's say a human in the loop step for an agent, right? So that you're not necessarily following that pattern where you're trying to take 1,000 step RPA workflow, for example, and replace it all at once with some master agent, if you will. You're able to really tackle, piecemeal components a little bit, whether it be an agent, whether it be, a human in the loop for this particular step. Really having this structure with these, the standardization around BPMN has helped in that regards. And then, of course, it was very important to us, UiPath platform, as it was even before the world of agents, to be interoperable, right? To allow our customer base to be able to interact with APIs across any system, uh, use traditional RPA automation still to click anywhere they need to, type anywhere they need to, but now to be able to leverage the agents that come from an Azure AI Foundry, or that come from a Google Vertex, or that represent the systems of record in the large CRMs, ERPs, the SAP Jules, the Salesforce Agent Force, like I mentioned before, but then also some of the more data-centric agents, whether that be Snowflake or Databricks, right? So we're expanding and building on that system of being able to ensure interoperability, not just in the traditional automation space, but also in the agentic space as well.
I think that's extremely enticing, and a lot of CIOs and CTOs in particular right now, from a persona perspective, are trying to make sense of all of this. That kind of that boat
Mhm.
diagram that we showed. They're trying to make sense of it, but they're also trying to figure out, how do I, make do with, the approving the architecture reviewed and approved platforms that I already have, like the UiPaths of the world, like some
Yeah.
of the data centric, data lake houses that
Yeah.
you mentioned. So I just think it's really critical, and it's kind of meeting the clients where they're at in our journey, if you will.
Yeah, I couldn't put it better. We're trying to meet you where you are. Yeah.
Yep. So I think the audience has grown weary of hearing you and I wax
Uh,
poetic on esoteric concepts. Let's actually get into some of the nitty-gritty of the features here if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of meeting customers where we are, we just had our large annual event at UiPath Fusion, where we announced a few different capabilities that we are adding into our agentic business process orchestration ecosystem here. And one of those is really case management, where for a number of people, it's able to make this business process orchestration thing a lot more real. So you could take a long running case, I don't care whether it's a claim or a loan, you can where it's going to require, let's say, a lot of human touch points in some cases, approvals or agent touch points for investigations, service requests. But the main thing is it's going to ultimately span multiple stages and participants. And each one of those stages might have, different policies associated with it, different SLAs, different escalations. So case management is our way of being able to bring still agents, robots, and humans together, under this kind of common timeline, SLAs and history. And you could see if a case, takes too long, where is it? Right, I can reassign, tasks more easily. And meanwhile, everything is still logged. You still get full visibility. But this is a more natural way in many cases for people to understand what business process orchestration is. And it's highly associated with another feature that we rolled out which is our process apps capability as well. And these process apps, they come out of the box with case management. So you only need to configure a few variables, but it'll give you a nice user interface that ultimately lets a business user or a case officer, for instance, in a claim scenario, maybe a claims officer, to keep track of, where is this claim throughout this orchestrated process. So with these process apps, they're all role-based. They're generated from, the model out of the box, or you can use our SDK if you want to create your own fancy user interface, maybe using one of the new vibe coding tools that you heard about. But you can get something that looks like this, or if we go to the next screen, where we dive a little bit deeper, into an individual case. We can see core information about that case, the full audit trail of what the agents did, what the robots did, what the people did. But this really allows us to, have a more business user interface that gives us complete insight into all the things that are happening, all the things that have happened.
Yeah, I kind of view, and I think these were great announcements. Kind of a natural progression for the mission criticality that UiPath provides its clients. I view process apps and case management in general as the execution scaffolding for all things
Yeah.
agentic. Like, I mean, I think that is the way business operational processes actually run. So, providing that scaffolding is, going to be oh so critical for a lot of these enterprises that want to take it to the next level with their process flows by invoking agents within them.
Yep, exactly. So just making it a little bit more real with a few different examples, right? Particularly in the agentic automation space where we're doing these complex orchestrations, right? The type of pattern that I'm talking about with case management or with agents really applies no matter what vertical or horizontal that you're looking at. So In finance, for example, I might have agents that analyze transactions, robots, help reconcile those transactions, and then people are just involved to approve exceptions. But if I look at a place like, or an area like healthcare and insurance, that might mean that agents are spending a lot of time interpreting documents or, and flagging anomalies as they do so, while ultimately I still have adjusters that make the final call. But we also have things like public sector agents can classify cases. Humans make sure that things are still, fair and equitable, if you will. And across all of these circumstances, orchestration is what's making it possible to bring all of those actors, the agents that think, the robots that do, and the people that ultimately still make final calls all together and keep a common set of rules, a common set of guidelines or guardrails throughout. That's how you get to something that's really repeatable, Marshall.
No, it makes a lot of sense, Robert.
All right. So again, let's actually dive a little bit into one very specific use case here. So I'm just gonna go into a use case centered around claims processing, property claims to be specific. So if you think about needing to do an insurance claim on some element of property, you have multiple different people that are going to be involved from a business perspective to finalize, approve, and close out that claim. And if you look at what those different personas have to deal with, if we just keep clicking forward, it's lots of documents. It's lots of systems, right? I may have uploaded my ID, various pictures ultimately of the claim, various records, various receipts for what I'm submitting as a claim. All of that information has to be processed, and it could be very taxing, very brittle today without some type of orchestration and automation assistance. Now, manually today, that really falls into about four different steps. Intake, it's not just manual, I should say. These steps will pretty much always exist here. There's a claim intake, there's a review process, there's a settlement process where we decide what needs to be paid and how it's paid or how it's reconciled. And then there's ultimately the closure of it. So next slide actually showcases to you all of the different things that you have somebody or multiple people touching on today. So in those manual claims, you've got a person that's handling emails, one or same person or a different person handling attachments, incident reports, coverage checks. They're searching for different duplicates. They're looking through various logs. It's very slow, very hard, and importantly, very difficult to repeat in a very consistent manner. So the people are really spending their time kind of moving information around and not getting the really focus in on the core decision points. Now, what UiPath has enabled over the past several years is with the robot capability that we have, but not necessarily with agents yet. Um, it's been able to, collect the documents and do maybe some document processing, populate systems, but a lot of the decision making still wound up queuing behind people driving up delays, and again, introducing some risk into the process in terms of repeatability. So gained a little bit of speed, but not necessarily all of the decision coordination that we would like. And now with more agentic automation, adding different, one or multiple agents into the mix, we can have things like AI reading packets, classifying it, checking for, duplicates, frauds, recommending next steps. Robots have that mechanical work still handled. That's still happening today by them. But the important thing is now humans just get to focus on the exceptions. So they're the little bubble sitting on top of the agent for when it needs to approve, validate a specific exception thrown by an agent.
Well, and I just, kind of reinforcing some of the features you already hit on earlier with case management, Robert. I mean, this is the importance from a human in the loop perspective. So I look at something like duplicate claims and fraud check. Well, there's going to be a lot of sub processes per case. that are gonna there's gonna be a very highly orchestrated need for human in the loop between agents and other systems and other people. So case management and orchestration is becoming more critical because our capabilities with agentic, the total addressable market for agentic in our processes and our operations just expanded. Because of that, we need to expand our business process orchestration lens. So it's very natural from my perspective. The other piece I'd call out,
Right.
there's still very highly compliant auditable areas where you have to be 100% accurate every single time. So deterministic
Yes.
rules driven uh, automation, so robots for processing payments as an example. You cannot be wrong on processing payments, and it's
No,
something your
not at all.
auditors and internal controls will be looking at. So, that's where we say there's still a place for robots in this agentic future, and increasingly probably so the orchestration, the handoff between robots, agents, and people just needs to be that much more orchestrated and tighter.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad if somebody automatically approved my $1 million insurance claim, but yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't advise it for my
yeah,
for my customers. Yeah. All
exactly.
right. Okay. So here, I think now is a good time actually, Marshall. Let me showcase and make that a little bit more real here for the audience.
Sure.
I will see if I can share screen here. All right. Now, you heard us talk about process intelligence and process orchestration. Again, I want you to remember there's a lot of power in being able to start from where you are today, really understanding what your business process looks like. In UiPath, that could be process mining, that could be task mining, but looking across those system logs, those user logs, right, gives us these various traces that we can have. And again, if you're new to BPMN, one of the important things to know is that this is also standardized off of BPMN. So after I've created this entire process mining exercise, I'm able to actually go in and export that out into a BPMN 2.0 diagram. So not only is Maestro and agentic orchestration built off of BPMN, our process mining, our task mining capabilities are as well. So with that, if I have a particular process in a claim scenario like what you just saw, let's say in particular fulfillment process, I can import in at any point in time a BPMN associated with the fulfillment process, and I will start to get a very clean view of what the traditional process steps are today. And I can use the power of the UiPath platform to specify which of these steps will be agent steps, which of them will be human in the loop steps, where the human's going to take action, which of them might be various API steps, and which of them might be traditional RPA steps as well. So I could bring all of those different things together for individual process steps and ultimately roll it up into what you saw in that claim scenario for intake, review, settlement, and closure into an overall case management plan. So here, the fulfillment process you just saw was one subset. When we talked about composable architecture, this is one of the types of things that we're talking about.
Yep.
Here is you can take different components, you can build them out over time. Maybe this was previously a human in the loop step. Now it becomes an overall orchestration that's part of your settlement flow. And you tackle things piecemeal in a composable manner. So here we have our intake stage, our review stage, our settlement stage, and our closure stage. And now with case management for each stage, I can set an SLA. And I've opened that up here, and I look at this particular stage. I'm able to set what that SLA might be, whether it's 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And then I could specify what happens when there's a breach. So when the SLA is breached, what user, what group am I going to message? Or when the SLA is at risk. So it's at, 80%, toward that 3 day mark. Who am I going to email, right? Might be somebody different, might be somebody else that I need to alert. But I'm able to specify that by stage, and then I'm able to specify what task, including what task will run in parallel, whether they'll be RPA tasks, document processing, IXP tasks, whether they'll be API task, whether they'll be RPA task. All of those different things get oriented and orchestrated here, as well as various exception paths, things that we call kind of secondary stages. So when a claim is withdrawal, it's not necessarily part of a linear flow, but we can still recognize and respond and react to those particular circumstances. Now, that is how we build out a case in the case management construct here. What that winds up looking like, and I'm going to go back here to our main case app screen, is out of the box. I am now able to see the different open cases if I have any open, my compliance rate, my SLA risk. I'm able to drill in and I'm able to see specific claims. And here I have one for Robert Carter, who has a burst pipe. And I'm able to see just by virtue of information that I passed along from that case management plan, right, without doing anything for this UI, essential details about this case, right, in a more detailed view. So the name of the person, all of the various claim details, any documents that are associated, as well as an audit trail. So I have a sense of where the case is now, as well as where the case has been in the past. And if I need that more technical view, I can look at it from this environment to see, step by step, kind of how it progressed. But if there's at any point, and often there will be throughout the course of a case, many, many different human in the loop tasks that you'll have to take. And these are, again, role-based, where as a claim officer, I might need to do an approval at some point for this case, or I might have to do multiple approvals. So here we're able to see with different Action Center apps that are embedded inside of the case app that we have here. We're able to see different agent recommendations. I'm able to see different documents that might be loaded here. Yeah, there we go. Including the policy owner information. And then I'm even able to see a conversational agent, if you will, that I can interact with here in real time that will give me additional context about this particular case. All right. Now, from a process standpoint, someone that needs to get a little bit more technical, the important thing for you to know is for everything that happens throughout the course of anything in our process orchestration, case management, et cetera, we have full traceability into all the actions that occur, whether they be human actions, robot actions, or AI agent actions. So I'm able to see what happened with an API workflow step. If I dive deeper, I'm able to see specific LLM calls that happen from an agent. Here we can see all of the different LLM calls, tool calls for the auditor agent, et cetera. But I'm able to see it in context. And just as a sneak peek for you under the hood, what you're seeing there in case management with the intake, review, settlement, closure steps is the same type of traditional BPMN process orchestration that's underlying it, right? With all of the circles, I'll say the circles, the diamonds, and the squares that you saw Marshall put up before, right? The Visio things that you might be used to. Um, Lastly, what I'll show here, just before we go to a little bit of Q&A, importantly, is we do show here, oops, we have within our monitoring view the ability for you to dive into specific metrics, right? Being able to see, incidents that happen over time, completed instances, outliers by durations, set various alerts, kind of for some high level understanding of metrics and things that happen with particular process steps. But very importantly, if I switch over here to optimize, this is where we leverage the process mining capability and kind of closing out the loop to immediately show me, where are my different process inefficiencies, where are my areas of biggest rework, Right. And I could see that by version even. And if I want to dive deeper, really augment it with, let's say, maybe some system logs, look at a few different scenarios, dive deeper into specific sub processes, I can open that up into process mining, and it really closes the loop for us, right? And you can dive as deep as you want to into these process steps, and it enables us to then refine things over time. If I make a lot of changes or play with some scenarios here, guess what? Once again, I can export this out into a BPMN, start to refine my process and rebuild it again. All right. So I think I will stop there. Marshall, hopefully that gives everybody a little bit of a sense of the art of the possible here.
Yeah, Robert, I think I'm going to highlight a couple pieces here because you went through a lot of great stuff there and kind of bringing it all together. So I do want to highlight a couple points. So get my screen back up. So the executable logs is going to be so critical. We have a term we use called AI explainability. It is the single reason why I don't think we've seen mass adoption in the enterprise setting yet. Once again, not to be confused with the individuals you see on LinkedIn and all the socials posting all this crazy stuff. Uh, AI explainability is a cultural shift for most large
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah.
So, going from deterministic to probabilistic technologies is no
Yeah.
small feat, especially when you're looking to do that enterprise-wide, not just in an engineering setting or
Hmm.
a digital product engineering setting. So, the logging through Maestro,
Yeah.
the observability of a process of all actors, whether they be agents, robots, or humans, I think is something I want to emphasize and something I think is part of the solve for
Yes.
adoption across the enterprise for agentic AI. So I think
Yep.
that is very, very critical. The last piece I'll call out is how you kind of flipped the process lens a little bit and got more granular with process intelligence. I think that is that double click, that ability to do so. Maybe not every process, maybe that's not required, but the ability to
Yeah.
do so, using common components, so that composable architecture is something that is pretty unique right now. It's either, in the past it was typically you either have a process orchestrator or you have a process mining tool.
Yeah.
Bringing all of that together, and I think that is something that is going to be pretty interesting for a lot of organizations as they look to consolidate.
Yeah. That's right.
So, so I don't have a question. I just have points at this
No,
point.
I appreciate
So
it. I
yeah,
mean, and what I'll emphasize even on top of your emphasis is, we look at that once again, even for the things that you consider external to the UiPath platform. So the platforms we interact with, the agents that are external to UiPath platform as well. We want to give that full execution trail, auditability, governance for those as well. So we
sure.
we maintain the same standard, whether it's completely built on our platform or not.
No, that's great, and that's why it's important to use universal standards.
Yes.
So I do have some questions for you. Looks like we got a little time.
Perfect.
So, from Maestro's perspective, so why do you feel this is so valuable at this exact moment in time in large enterprises? So I kind of already gave you one reason there. It's kind of led you, but why do you feel like it's so valuable at this exact moment in time, Robert?
Yeah, so I mean, from a few different perspectives, or people are coming at this from different angles. There's definitely a number of people that have done large amount of automations. Right. Fortunately, they're the ones I consider ahead of the curve. Over the past few years, they've gone through. They started to architect
Yeah,
what automation looks like within their organization. Right. But what they've wound up with is, hundreds of different automations that require effectively some very well documented process steps and mechanisms to say how these various automations all tie together, right? In many cases, in some cases, they were actually able to tie those things together. Those are the ones that are doing really good. But then they are trying to figure out how do I actually tie this to KPIs because I am trying to look across many different automations. And if they're able to tie it to KPIs, they're doing exceptionally well. All right. But then AI agents get added into the mix, and they say, well, I'm inundated by conversations from every vendor. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to tie together these different agents. Some cases I am going to use multiple agents because I know I might use inside of Salesforce. I want to use Salesforce Agent Force. I know that I have an AI team that's already been building AI agents for different purposes, and they're going to want to build something on LangChain. How do I take advantage of this burgeoning wall of AI agents? With all of the complexity that I already have for these, processes that, I may or may not have automated, and bring it all together into something that's cohesive, understandable, that gets my process owners, my AI teams, my automation teams all on the same page. No matter where they're coming from, whether they're a process owner perspective or an AI agent perspective or an automation team, they're all thinking about those three
Yeah.
things. How do I bring, I have to collaborate with these other teams. How do I get this done? Uh, Agentic orchestration with Maestro would be a way that they get that done.
So I think that's a great response, number one. I think I'm going to kind of come up with a part two for that question then, because we already hit on it a couple times. You gave a couple more examples, but based on what you're seeing in the wild, so in client environments, the topic of interoperability. What are some of the other kind of interoperable platforms? So you mentioned, Copilot as an example. You mentioned
Yeah.
Agentforce. Like, what are the top two or three that you're seeing in demand from UiPath clients in regards to making sure that that integration and interoperability is in place?
Yeah, we see, a surprising amount, not a surprising amount, I should say, but we see quite a bit from what you might consider the data agent platforms, the platforms that really got popular over the past several years, like a Snowflake or Databricks,
Yeah.
bringing all of your data together into one place where you can start to do querying, you can start to learn information about it, right? Which was very powerful for them to be able to do that. But then to be able to take kind of those data repositories and then go one step further with it and take actions, right? When those platforms didn't necessarily have action-based hooks into other platforms, is something that people have seen the opportunity for. They see, okay, I can create an agent on my Databricks, an agent on my Snowflake that kind of understands data, queries things, but how do I take and piece together multiple of those agents to actually take action in my ERP, action in my CRM, communication with my customers, interaction with my marketing platform, right? I think that is, that's been a big one for us to be fully interoperable with. So of course we've got the interoperability from a just direct API connection
Yep.
kind of integration service manner, traditional automation, where we read to and write to those platforms, but then interacting directly with their agents, managing their agents, orchestrating their agents, has been another aspect for us, and that extends to having the kind of traceability for the actions and the thought processes that they have in bringing that into our platform as well. So you'll notice a lot of different partnerships. You mentioned a couple of them
Yep.
that we
Well, I mean,
announced.
I've been going to your annual conference for 8 years at this
Yeah.
point, and I don't think I've ever seen the slew of those partnership announcements that I saw
Eh,
this year. So it makes a lot of sense when you kind of explain it the way
Yeah,
you just did.
exactly. And I won't go too much further. I was just mentioning those two in particular were very powerful, but also I think you might have mentioned it, the Azure AI Foundry,
Yep.
Google Vertex, right? They are truly platforms in and of itself, in and of themselves, right? But we, have a strong partnership with those platforms as well on the agentic side.
Well, and I think it's multimodal solutions. So going back to that boat concept, I mean the fact that you
Yeah,
are creating that ecosystem, whether it's inside the UiPath platform or external with some of these third party relationships, I think it allows people to take advantage of that total addressable market now.
that's right.
Okay, we got time for one more, and it's mine to you. So I'm going to ask you to put your prognosticator hat on. So what does 2026 have in store for not just UiPath in general, but for this process orchestration backbone that we think is core to enabling agentic in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully we've been a little bit ahead of the curve on this by releasing Maestro here in 2025 because I do think 2026 is when it's finally realized, and by it I mean convergence, where you are, our customers, new customers, old customers, people across all types of enterprise, customers or not, are pulling automation, AI agents together in human work into something that's, one cohesive operational model. So really starting to understand that it is not a either or, as has often been positioned, where automation is or RPA and traditional automation is no longer viable. Right, being able to understand that no process orchestration, where you are combining the best of rules-based automation with more probabilistic, less deterministic type of automation is the path forward, and they don't have to live in entirely separate lanes. I think also in 2026, people will understand that they cannot compromise on, let's say, having visibility and control when they understand what both the power and the limits of something that is purely agentic. That will be a determination that I think a lot of enterprise organizations will fully come to terms with, and they will embrace orchestration full on.
I think those are
Your thoughts, Marshall, on that?
I'm not going to challenge any of those. I am fully in aligned on it, and I think people are looking for simple and standards again too, because of the
Yeah.
fact that they don't, it's the AI black box of explainability. I really think that we have
Oh
a
yeah.
great opportunity as a industry to
True.
fully go end to end now, and do so thoughtfully and rewire business process. We have the ability to use process intelligence and canvassing to look at future states in an automated and agentic world quicker. So we should think about reimagining the process. So I hope that we see more of that as opposed to just lift and shift. But I know we are at exactly time, so it's always fun to riff with you, Robert. And
Absolutely.
I think we should come back midway 2026 and do a temperature check
Yeah.
of our prognostications.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Happy to join in. All right.
Awesome.
And
Cool. Yeah, appreciate it, Robert, and thanks for everybody for joining.
all right.
All right,
Have a good
thanks
one.
all.